Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of The Outcome Podcast with me as your host, Matt Schiff, where it is my mission to tighten the gap between experiential learning and mastery and to contribute to an already existing space to learn, but not just for the sake of consumption, but to learn in a way that has clear application. On this particular episode number 9, I have co-founder and CEO of BoxChamp, as well as Flexi, Mark Fawzy. But before we jump into that conversation and the introduction for that, I wanted to again give another shout out to previous episode and guests which I've had on the show, Chris and Heine from JOBJACK, where essentially JOBJACK is a marketplace for entry-level positions, focusing on posting jobs that require no tertiary education. By staying up to date with technology, especially during today's day and age, their team has created an easy-to-use platform for users, the people who are seeking jobs, to register through creating a JOBJACK CV and giving them free access to apply for positions within their area. This is a really, really important point which they emphasize because of the amount of money and time that these people spend trying to source a valid and accurate position for them. This company helps them to find a decent and well-paying job within their area. Companies also have the same option to register on the JOBJACK platform and post their available positions, giving access to reliable and relevant candidates that their team might be after. Their team is hard at work, and their mission is to employ the world. And even given the uncertainty and the pandemic that we're existing at the moment, the JOBJACK website will still be open for applications during the COVID-19 shutdown situation in South Africa. New interviews will only be arranged for after the 20th of April 2020, but please use this time to set up your profile and familiarize yourself with their platform and their workings. You can also feel free to reach out. All their details will be included in the show notes. So if you have any questions, feel free to shoot through to them. JOBJACK has also been featured on the likes of Apps Africa, Book Radio, Cape Talk, Disrupt, ENCA, KFM, and they've also actually placed particular employees within the likes of Vita Cafe, within Bootlegger, Caterwise, De Villiers, Sportsman's Warehouse, Jumbo. They have a massive presence. So if you're looking for more information, check out the episode 5 in the links below or reach out to them directly. I'm sure they would love to hear from you. Episode 9 on the Outcome Podcast features, as mentioned earlier, founder and CEO of BoxChamp, co-founder of Flexi, Mark Fawzy. And so aptly described in a write-up of Mark in 2017, which I will include in the show notes, it's very difficult to picture the man doing anything mundane or subordinary once you get a sneak peek into the mind behind the name. I've personally known Mark for quite a few years now, and when the opportunity presented itself to find out a little bit more about his journey through sports, entrepreneurship, and ultimately his perspective on life, I absolutely jumped at the chance. I think personally there's actually something quite special which develops when two friends sit down to have an unusual chat of sorts, which taps into the unfamiliar within that friendship. Despite the foundation of our friendship being formed some time ago, this conversation with Mark allowed me to catch a glimpse of that spark which he brings to everything he commits to during his day-to-day, and one which I know that you, and hope in fact that you as the listener, could relate to and hopefully appreciate the way I did during the recording. Mark and his team at BoxChamp have developed and presented the fitness industry around the world with an all-in-one business management solution for fitness facilities. Their influence across the country has become so successful that in just a few years, they are now challenging some of the giant household names globally, bringing with them an excellent customer service support team, stellar onboarding experiences for coaches and managers alike, agile work methodology, and of course, a sleek, easy-to-use interface for the facility athletes and members as well. Our conversation shifted from Mark nearing burnout during his first few years in running his business to being constantly on the lookout for balance in work and play. Everything from family time, running, yoga, CrossFit, business education, podcasting, we covered it all during our chat. I really hope that you enjoy. Mark, thank you so much for joining me this morning. How you doing?
I'm good, Sheffy. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. We're sitting at Ideas Got Tell for another episode on the Outcome podcast, and we were just chatting about you now potentially having an idea to start your own podcast. Or have experience with podcasts before.
Yeah.
Do you mind if we take a step back and just
Sure.
go into that? I know that in the past, BoxChamp has tried or experimented with BoxChat.
Yes.
And you've had Alan Fowlers, who's been on the podcast as well, and another gent by the name of Jamie, and you guys try to roll out that. How did you find that experience, or where does podcast fall within your radar now?
So that first pilot episode we did with Alan and Jamie was lots of fun. I really enjoyed the process. I subsequently did another episode with Ryan Brower, which was also really fun. And I think we were trying to do it under the BoxChamp brand.
Okay.
So it added a bit of complexity with Alan and the commercials, with Alan and Jamie and the commercials around, because BoxChamp is sponsored by Reebok, so if we get sponsorship for the podcast, how the commercials would look.
Right.
And it was actually complex and difficult, and so we kind of decided to just put it on ice because we didn't necessarily see eye to eye on something specific, but it wasn't a personal thing at all. We kind of agreed to just put it on ice and see how it goes and so on. And then I attempted again with Ryan, which was a lot of fun, but Ryan's a busy guy and I'm a busy guy, and we both got busy and we didn't carry it on. And so I was having coffee with Alan the other day, and we've always had good banter. I've always really gotten along well with him, and we were like, why don't we actually just do this in our personal capacity and enjoy the process and not think about the commercials of it and not worry about sponsorship, and we don't want to do that. We're both fine. We have our businesses, and this is something that we feel we could do to add value to people and to ourselves, and to enjoy a new experience of creating content and talking crap.
Have you got an idea of what sort of content you'd want to be chatting about just yet, or where the direction of it's going to go?
We're still putting that together. But again, I think the more organic, the better. We don't want to overthink it. There's a lot of stuff we could talk about, and I think we could cover a variety of topics and so on, and potentially have a few people on the podcast that we could chat to. It's one of those things where we want to do it as a passion project.
Sure.
And we kind of want to just go with the flow and take it as it comes and keep it natural as possible and so on.
Man, I think that's fantastic. That's exactly where pretty much this podcast had begun as well. It was sort of something I'd sat with an A3 piece of paper and I thought, what is it that I enjoy and what can I sort of see myself doing? And on that piece of paper, I put their coffee, I put their conversations, I put their CrossFit, and I was like, there's a lot of C's, got to mix it up a little bit. And I thought, well, what do I spend a lot of my time doing? I thought, I spend a lot of time listening to podcasts. I was like, this thing has longevity.
Yeah.
And it's a fantastic platform, not only to sort of escape from, sometimes it's nice to just have something on in the background.
Yeah.
But other times it's also I'm actually learning something new here, or I'm taking something out of it.
You know what I love? I think on what you're saying, it's a really good way to express yourself in a longer form way, because I've been experimenting with Instagram TV videos and so on, as you might have seen, and you always want to keep it short and tight and sweet, because you don't want people who are watching to lose interest and so on, whereas a podcast you can actually get into the real meat of a topic and discuss it, and really you can take your time a bit more.
Interestingly, I was listening to one that Cami, my girlfriend, had recommended the other day. It's a brilliant podcast host by the name of Dr. Chattery. I'll share the link after the show. But he got into a conversation with an ultra-marathon runner by the name of Rich Roll, and the two of them were chatting about the ability to have a long-form conversation. Do we as humans know how to now have a long-form conversation? Do we know how to listen in that manner? Is there an opportunity for people to do it? Because of the Instagram sort of sugar rush, information needs to happen now. How much information are we missing? Exactly. So I think it's also quite a nice challenge. I mean, trying to think of topics, conversations, and ultimately to provide value in the conversation for yourself, but to people that might be listening. It's a nice challenge.
Yeah,
it's pretty cool.
100%. And to look at different perspectives.
Yeah. And I think the authenticity of what you were saying, the fact that it's just a passion project, that in and of itself, I think it strips so many like boundaries and pressures, and it's just like, cool, let's just do something for the sake of doing it.
Exactly.
I mean, when last do you get the chance to do that, you know?
Exactly, 100%. Yeah.
To do that.
And like often the rest will follow,
you
know, and we don't care if it does or not. But I mean, commercially. But often if you do something for the right reasons, you'll find like the byproducts of that are cool.
Yeah.
You know?
So I saw a post from you this morning. Before we sat down, I got an SMS from Mark or WhatsApp message at around 22:05 this morning, and I was like, "This man is after it." But you more often than not, you get out into the promenade, you do some runs, and you spend a bit of time doing like fitness in the morning or something. And I think you had a quote. I'm going to paraphrase probably incorrectly here, but about you got 2 new PBs for a 5K and a 10K in the space of an hour-long run this morning. And that, I mean, the reason I'm bringing this up because I think it speaks directly to what you were just saying. You sort of treat something consistently and you do something for the right reasons. You know that it breeds that success. How long have you been doing this sort of morning routine, or what does your type of morning routine actually look like?
So
keeping in mind that you're also a father of 2 and a husband and a business owner.
100%. It's so. Just to put it in perspective, we live in Nurtuk. So if anyone listening doesn't know where that is, it's about 45 minutes outside of central Cape Town. Our offices are in central Cape Town, in the foreshore. So it takes me probably 45 minutes in traffic to get here. And because I've got 2 little children at home, I like to make it home earlier than kind of close of business. So I usually leave town at around 3 p.m. to get home to kind of spend the best hours of the evening with my family. And then if necessary, I'll catch up on work after bedtime. So I mean, I have to find the hours somewhere. So waking up early is a good way to do that. And it's a really good way to kind of be productive before everyone else is awake and bombarding you. My most productive time is when I'm left alone. So whether I'm doing some work early in the morning before everyone else wakes up, I find out I'll probably do a whole day's worth of work in 2 hours in that time because there's zero distraction. Or with running, it's actually the best time of the day to run because it's not too hot. And it's such a great start to the day. It really is. It primes you for the rest of the day and puts you in a completely positive mind state. With regard to morning routine, there are a few things. I never thought of myself as a person of strict routine, but funny enough, I think I am, in that I wake up in the morning, drink a big glass of water, make a cup of coffee, have a shower, do 10 minutes of meditation, and then get my day started. And like that's kind of been the trend in the last 2 years of stuff that I've kind of done consistently.
Out of interest, what form of meditation do you do, or how do you do it?
So I started using the Headspace app. So
fantastic.
You download it and it's 10 minutes a day. Meditation is one of those things that I think is quite misunderstood by many people. I think many people think it's quite spiritual or zen or anything, but the way I like to think about it is that it's just the way that we do fitness training for our body, like it's actually training for the mind. And that's what I like about Headspace. It's not overcomplicated. It's 10 minutes a day, and it's literally just breathing, checking in with your body. If you have thoughts, and then recognize them and let them go. And it's literally just 10 minutes, which I love about it. And then over time, what I've started doing now, which I've started kind of improving at, well, not improving, but I've started being more comfortable with, is actually meditating without the app.
Right.
So I often now, like, I just do it without the app. Like,
it's the same process, sort of just checking in.
I follow the same thing.
You breathe in, just like acknowledging thoughts that come in.
100%.
I don't remember who I was talking to about this. It slipped my mind now, but he had recommended a fantastic form of just like grounding yourself. I think he'd actually called it grounding, like physical grounding of yourself. Where in a moment where you're feeling flustered or overwhelmed or anxious, he tends to sort of rub his fingers together, and what that stimulus does is just reminds him that, okay, this is physical, and as a result my focus is removed from whatever else I'm worried about, and I'm focusing on the feeling of my fingers rubbing against one another. Or if he's sitting in a chair, he'll feel like the chair leg, the table, whatever might be in front of him. And the idea behind it is to use that as a cascading effect to ultimately breathe, but then to also just like give yourself that permission to have a 20-second or a 2-minute long worth of meditative form. And I find that over the sort of years that I've adopted this philosophy, it's been phenomenal. It's been fantastic. You know, anything, walking into a meeting, before I walk into the CrossFit box, whatever it might be, if my mind is distracted, it's just like, let's feel what's around you. And for me, it works in such a way, it's like, cool, well, I've acknowledged that now I'm here. It then reminds me to like take 2 deep breaths, and if I have an opportunity to wet my face, I will. And then it's just almost like a reset, which I think brings
you back.
It's awesome.
It's like something I've realized is, before I started this, what made me realize it is, I think we can get into that a bit more, but I went through like a very tough phase dealing with like anxiety, and not being able to switch off, and like not being able to switch off, always being on, and that kind of led me to a place where I was unhappy, and I needed to make a change in lifestyle, and what I realized is, like, on a daily basis, if you don't kind of notice the bombardment of notifications, it's actually the smartphone is like one of my favorite things. Like I've spent a lot of time on my smartphone, but it's got the potential to be quite intrusive.
For sure.
In that you're getting WhatsApp direct messages, you're getting notifications on all the social platforms and all the work platforms, all of that mixed with, you know, if you work with people, you are always being bombarded by questions, by requests, by managing expectations. And I think especially as a business owner, but I think in other careers as well, especially when you have staff and clients. And so the whole thing was just learning to meditate, and getting into that really helped me with noticing that, okay, this is a thought, it will pass, and bringing you, it's exactly what you were saying, like grounding you in the moment and trying to be present instead of being here with you right now, but my mind is on 50 million other things, and not actually doing anything properly because you're constantly flustered.
And you're just acknowledging it as well, right? Not necessarily berating yourself if you are feeling flustered, and now you need to try and bring yourself back to being present, and you're so like in that split second back and forth about why you're not present but why you are. Just having the calmness and just being like, hey, well, and that just takes time.
Acknowledging it is like the main thing.
Yeah.
It's like, if you're feeling anxious, it's a feeling.
Yeah.
If you just notice that you're feeling anxious and you acknowledge it, it kind of passes after that.
So it gives a bit of grace almost.
Yeah.
If you don't mind, let's sort of double click into what you were saying now about that period of your life where you were feeling maybe a bit overwhelmed and anxious. At what stage, or where can you place us? What was happening?
So it was an intense year, personal and business. Personal for good reasons, business for good and bad reasons.
Right.
Not bad, but it was a lot.
Challenging.
So I think it was the year of 2016. Yeah, the year of 2016. So launched the business, launched BoxChamp January 2015. Got married 2 months before that. 2 very, very exciting things. And then the whole journey started, the whole BoxChamp journey started, which was awesome. So it was 2016. I'd built the business to a level where we had a considerable number of clients. I was the touch point. I was the only contact person. And I had unknowingly built like quite a casual culture of how we communicate. So because I built a lot of personal relationships with our clients, we communicated over direct message the whole time, over WhatsApp, or, you know, it wasn't formalized. There wasn't proper structure in place, and we can get into that properly just now. But so I was constantly being bombarded by questions, requests, issues, bugs, all of that comes with building a software business. That alongside Tony and I had Ava. So that came in September of 2016, which was amazing. That year, just before Ava was born, a few months before, we had a security breach on the system, a hack. I won't go into too much detail with that. It's a thing of the past, but it's something that obviously made us much stronger. But at the time, it was a nightmare.
Sure.
So I had that. I had secured a partnership with Reebok, which obviously the lead up to that was a lot of work. I secured investment that year from investment partners, which also a very emotional process, giving up a part of my business, making sure that people are right, and everything that comes with that. So it was just a really intense year. And then the December of that year, as much as I love what I do and my business and everything, I really needed a mental break. And I was counting on taking 2 weeks off over Christmas and so on with family, and that never happened. It just, Murphy's Law, like when it was supposed to happen, there was just too much going on and I wasn't able to have time off. And it was at the end of that holiday period, which I didn't have a holiday, where I started feeling like overwhelmed, a little bit out of control. Like, I don't know how much longer I can do this. I can't sustain this. And that, I think that was a huge challenge, or that time was a huge challenge, but it was the best thing that could have ever happened, because it forced me to really take action to make some changes. Like, for example, like, this is very simple, but like, I'm saying like a lot, sorry.
This is fine, no worries.
Very simple, but one of the reasons that I decided to go ahead and start BoxChamp and really go for it is I love training, I love fitness, I love being active, I love a healthy lifestyle. And I've always been in that lifestyle. But after those 2 years, when I hit that rough patch, I found I was like in the worst shape of my life. I was smoking excessively. I was like drinking, not drinking heavily, but like drinking a glass of wine every night. It was just unhealthy. So I felt really uncomfortable in my own skin. So I had to remember, like, why did I start this? Why am I doing this? Like, I'm not just doing this to earn a living, because...
What was your mental framework like during that period? Was the drive, see out this year so that 2017 or the next year will be a better year, or will be a different year? Or was it more like a day by day?
So I actually remember it clearly. We went away. It was my wife's mom's birthday. My mom-in-law's birthday is on the 4th of Jan. And we went away for a weekend on her birthday on a houseboat, which was literally in the middle of the Langebaan Lagoon, and it was beautiful, and it was the perfect opportunity to take a weekend off before the year started. And I spent most of my time on the phone, on the deck, like sorting out issues. And Ava was 3-4 months old. It's like not great. So on that drive home, and I know like the next day was Monday, first day back at work kind of thing. On that drive home, I had a conversation with Tony, and I actually said to her, like, I don't even know, like, should I be thinking of getting rid of this business? Should I sell it? Because it's actually making me crazy. And I knew that wasn't the answer, obviously. That was kind of an irrational thing that I said. And I talked it through, talked it through, and I thought, like, no, like, I need to make some changes. And I believe that this is the right way to go, but I think that I need to be disciplined and make some changes in my hiring process, in the processes, in the actual business, creating boundaries with clients, creating boundaries with staff, getting my own health and life back in order, like starting training and eating correctly. And I started meditating. I started seeing a shrink. That was a huge thing for me, because before this time, I actually don't think I really ever believed in, unless you had a real problem per se. And a problem it's like such a loose term, you know what I mean? Just
some assistance and help.
And I went and did it, and it was actually very expensive, and I'd spent the money and invested in it.
I've got to do it now.
I mean, exactly. And all of those things, I think, collectively really did turn things around. And it forced me to create structures, like in every part of life and business.
It's almost, how do you frame this? It's quite ironic in a way that a lot of the conversations which I have now, especially with on the podcast, I try to tease out, why do people start? And how do they just make the decision to just begin? Like the first pen to paper or the first pitch or whatever the case might be. But very rarely, I think, do I ever tease out, you've got a successful business. Now it's drowning you in a way that the rest of the spheres in your life are out of balance, dropping balls with other things. And I think the situation in Langebaan it's one of those like epiphany moments where it's like, this cannot be the case. I can't live this way forever. But you've also brought this business of yours, this baby up from the ground, and you're so heavily invested now. You have the thought to like consider stopping it or selling it or getting rid of it.
I mean, I wouldn't have sold it for much back then.
Sure, yeah.
So it would have been shutting down.
Exactly.
It would have been equivalent.
And I mean, I'm just like there's an element in that I just find, it's when people get pushed to a limit, like no bounds, they have to now fight their way out of a corner. They become very resourceful. Yeah. And they become very, they've had to make a plan. Like, what did that start to look like? So the new year came around, you got back Monday morning, you're in the office. If you don't mind, what was the process for like the next 2 months? Was it like starting with hiring? Was it turning off WhatsApp? What did that look like for you?
Yeah. So I think the first thing, I'd already like started hiring prior to this. Yeah. But I think I had 2 people. Yeah. The first thing was making a conscious decision to set boundaries with clients and to create structures that would accommodate this whole process. So such as, for example, like for a system issue or a work question, etc., you can't just WhatsApp me at like 9 p.m., which is what happened all the time. And if you take that at scale, it's a lot. So we created systems of implementing, for example, Help Scout, which is a support ticketing system where you can, if I email info@boxchampworld.com, it goes into Help Scout, and from there it's tracked, it's professional, you get auto responses, nothing is missed, and it's not as intrusive as a direct message. Sure. So that's just one of the ways. Yeah. Another thing is just I made sure to what I did was I went like extreme, and sometimes it's necessary to go extreme just to reset stuff. And as soon as I walked into the door at home, I'd put my phone on airplane mode until the next morning. Sure,
just to try it, I suppose. Just to set it.
And it's harder than it sounds.
Yeah, no, I can imagine.
So I did that for a while. Obviously, that's not sustainable because it's my personal phone. I also want to do personal stuff on it.
Of course.
But at least it got me into a bit of a habit of being more present at home. Yeah. Which did wonders for myself, for like my family noticed the difference, which was cool. Yeah. So there was that. And then with regards to training and nutrition and so on, it wasn't like overnight, like implement everything. Sure. I think it was in stages, like start implementing stuff to improve everything. So like with training, I think one of the things that I learned is I've always been an extreme person. So I would always like, cool, I'm going to start training tomorrow and I'm going to do it properly and I'm going to train twice a day and it's not sustainable. So what I always had over like my whole life actually was cycles of like, cool, I'm on this like training peak. Sure. And then like I get injured or something because I'm training too much or whatever, or I'm not doing it, sustainably. And then I get injured and I stop for another month and then start again. And so you never really see sustainable results. And so start small. I started like small. I was doing CrossFit and I scaled everything for a long time until I really felt comfortable and my body was feeling more conditioned and so on. So that really helps. With nutrition as well, I think with nutrition I've tried every diet under the sun. Sure. It is something that interests me as well. Yeah. So like trying keto and paleo and all of that. But what I found really works for me is none of them. Okay. And just eating healthily, and like eating whole foods. Right. I'm okay to eat bread. Sure. I'm okay to have pasta once in a while, and just as long as like my diet is mainly whole foods.
Moderation as well.
Yeah.
Fair. It also gives you that balance, right? So you're not necessarily obsessing about what's in and what's out, or calorie counting.
Exactly. And I suppose I'm also not aiming at trying to be a competitive athlete.
Sure.
I just want to be healthy.
And look good, feel good, just like be able to function.
Yeah, exactly.
Nutrition is the base.
Yeah.
Sure. What other forms of exercise or athleticism do you sort of experience in today?
So I do a lot of different things. I think my main form of exercise would be CrossFit. That would be my primary, I think. I really have gotten into running. I really enjoy running. I find also because it's outdoor, I enjoy that.
Yeah,
it's like a stress relief, and I've been doing Sweat 1000 once in a while, which is like an hour-long running interval HIIT workout.
I can tell you a story about that. I did my first one last year.
Did you?
But well, I do CrossFit. It's cool. Like I consider myself pretty fit.
You are fit.
Oh my god! I went to the sweat class. Firstly, I was blinded by a lot of the Luma type shoes that were around.
That
was quite
very bright.
It's been a very long time since I stepped into like a commercial gym,
Yes.
just because of CrossFit. And I thought, okay, well, here we go. Sweat can't be that bad. I mean, I'm used to moving around for an hour, and holy shit, I could not move by the end of that session. Between the boxing and running and jumping, just everything.
But it's also how hard you push yourself.
And you get to choose the dumbbells and the weights you want to use, so you can make it
you can make it hard.
In the back of my eye, people like, obviously you stand in sort of rows or lines a lot of the time, and I kept thinking to myself, oh, that girl's not squatting below.
I know.
What's that guy doing with his plank there? Tighten your core up. I just thought to myself, this is embarrassing. It kicked my ass. It was really tough.
Yeah, it's a great workout. It really is. I actually really enjoy it. Like once a week, I try to do a session.
Sure. Yeah.
I couldn't really see myself doing it daily.
Yeah.
Like I prefer CrossFit because it's constantly varied and it's working on skill and so on as well, which also is mentally challenging.
Yeah, of course.
Whereas Sweat is just an hour of like cardio, killing yourself an hour,
burning,
and it's good.
Yeah.
And other than that, yoga. Like I love yoga.
Cool.
If I had it my way, I would do all of them every day. But obviously, you can't.
If only. That's the dream.
Yeah.
That is the dream. And has that been something that you've been very diligent in putting into your sort of work-life balance now? So did it start to take shape and form during that period of challenge? And now do you feel like you're on a good trajectory?
100%. I actually remember I had a conversation with Chris, who's our coach, back then.
Yeah.
And I think he was, Chris and I have a very honest relationship.
Sure.
And he was brutally honest with me. He's like, because I mentioned to him the struggle that I was having, and like, obviously I was talking to him more from a training perspective. I was like, I'm just seriously struggling to balance it all and find the time. And he's the one who said to me, like, remember why you started this business. Like, don't make fucking excuses. Come train. Yeah. And I think he said it to me like that.
You're right.
And I was like, he's absolutely right.
You're right.
And so what I've been trying to do since then is, with CrossFit at least, I do the lunchtime session, which is a 45-minute session. And I almost put it in my diary as a meeting. Mm-hmm. So it's there, and I try plan around that. Mm-hmm. So 90% of the time it's there, you know. And nowadays I might do something different to CrossFit itself, but I'm training in that time.
Sure.
Yeah.
No, that makes loads of sense. Jumping right into then BoxChamp. From what I've read, and I think the previous conversation we've had, BoxChamp was born out of the idea of not having sweaty and waterlogged logbooks, from what I understand. Can you take us back there to where the idea of BoxChamp was born?
Sure. So the story is quite cliche. Of I had a logbook which I wrote my training down in every day, and it got wet.
Right.
Okay, so that's where the idea sparked. But it was that combined with the fact that it's obviously a physical book that I have to page back and look for my scores and so on, which doesn't feel very efficient in this day and age. So when it started, I had a conversation, funny enough, with Chris, because he was the only CrossFit coach that I knew.
Right.
I used to train at CrossFit Newlands at the time, and it turns out that currently at the time there wasn't anything around doing this well. What's really lacking, there's a lot of training apps out there and apps to log scores, but what's really lacking is a a platform for the entire gym to be on, where they can load the programs onto, where it makes it easy for the members just to log a score, to see the workout and log a score, and not necessarily have to type out what they did, etc. So that's kind of the BoxChamp MVP at the beginning was a digital training logbook, performance tracker. And then obviously the idea is to make it as easy as possible to find your previous history. So if I'm going in and I'm doing a lift, for example, I can easily see what was the last weight that I lifted. So I don't have to, it makes your time in the gym more efficient. And obviously it's evolved a lot from that. When I launched in Jan 2015, it was cool because I built a lot of good relationships with boxers. I did a lot of legwork before the actual launch of actually traveling the country and meeting as many box owners as I humanly could. Firstly, to gauge demand. Secondly, to build the product, to get the feedback that I needed of what they need. And then other than that, it was also just kind of building momentum so that when we launch, we can actually start getting clients on board. And that all worked out quite nicely. And Jan started working with a few boxers already, which is cool. And immediately upon launch, the clients we were working with were asking me, can you build a booking system? What I really need is an all-in-one place to do everything. And what happened is now we've got an all-in-one business management solution for gyms, which actually scales to more than just CrossFit gyms. It's CrossFit boxing, functional fitness, boutique training. And the workout tracker is something that admittedly we haven't even touched since 2014 or 2015. It's like a smaller part of our system. And like I said, admittedly, it is something that we do need to focus on going forward, because it's actually like it's still an MVP state. You know.
But that's also from the athlete's perspective, from the user's perspective. So there's your clientele is two personas. And for the athletes to track their WODs or their scores or their times is fantastic. To have it as an app, even better, to like download an Excel spreadsheet and whatnot. But obviously now, as you're saying, it's this one-stop shop for gym owners, functional fitness owners. That just removes the headache completely. And as of late, I think in the last 2 years, you guys actually gone international as well. How have you found that experience? Obviously, there's the likes of Wodify and these bigger type. Not bigger, but there are other gym management type systems that have been around. You've got a bit of history. How do you find yourself playing in those spaces, and where are you at the moment in the world?
So it's been a very interesting transition. Obviously, we had to make a decision of, in order to grow, because obviously South Africa, the market's limited. So if we want to build a growth company, it's how do we grow? Do we grow into different types of like commercial gyms and do turnstiles and all that stuff? Or do we stick to the boutique market and actually specifically CrossFit and focus on functional fitness and CrossFit and those kinds of gyms that we already know and do that really well, and then scale abroad or outside our borders? And so that's obviously the route we took. I took that route simply because that's what I'm more passionate about. I'm not as passionate as starting to build turnstiles and solutions for big commercial gyms, you know. And there are platforms that already do that, obviously. So we went that route, and the launch into other countries was interesting because we didn't know exactly which countries to focus on. So like, obviously the no-brainer is UK because it's English, same language, same time zone. But I was kind of trialing and testing different countries, different zones with digital marketing and chatting to people and so on. And like today, we're in 27 different countries,
massive.
Including the States, including Vietnam and Japan and Thailand. And however, of all those countries, we do have our main target focuses, which are the UK, Austria, Germany, Switzerland. And obviously Africa, the rest of Africa. Mainly same time zone, that's a huge thing. So providing support to a very different time zone is very difficult, obviously. And it really helps that two of our people internally in BoxChamp are, one of them is German and one of them is Austrian. And so we've got the language covered.
Yeah, that's
which
cool.
is cool. And yeah, so locally we don't have too much local competition.
Yeah.
But globally we've got some major players, relative obviously.
Sure.
Major players that we do compete with, like Waterfire, like Mindbody Online, Zen Planner, etc. And we've, yeah.
Do you remember that conversation? I don't know whether it was internally or with the staff, where you were like, let's roll this out, let's see what happens, let's experiment.
Yeah.
German, Austrian, let's see what we can get in.
Yeah.
And was it a process of being like, let's just try, let's just walk into a box or a gym, see if there's a need, and say, here's BoxChamp? So
these conversations happened before I had staff.
Right.
Yeah. So, so I was approached by a friend of mine in the UK, who lives in Scotland. Sean, we're still friends, and he's South African. He lives there now, and he was obviously here at Cape CrossFit, used BoxChamp, and he was like, my gym in Edinburgh really needs this.
Right.
Okay. And he's a salesperson by profession. He's a really good, like, high level salesperson, and he wanted to take it on as like a side project. And so it was awesome because I was like, great, let's do it. And we did it with him, and he really helped me to gain insights into what payment gateways are used and what are the systems and so on, which we eventually ended up integrating with. So he got our foot in the door with at least a few gyms, which was cool.
Awesome.
And then he couldn't carry on just because of time constraints and so on. But like I said, we're still on really good terms, and it just rolled from there. And it showed me that there is potential outside of South Africa.
Sure.
And the cool thing is, even though we're going against some big companies, it was actually an advantage because we were able to be much more agile. We were able to offer them we were able to offer them things that the bigger companies weren't willing to do. Or, as you get bigger as a company, it's difficult to tweak little things, and we were able to do that.
Yeah. So is there anything in particular that you have with BoxChamp that is like a nicety to have? I just made that word up. That's just like the slight X factor that you like to include?
So I'm not going to go on features because any software platform can build a feature.
Sure.
And predominantly most of the platforms have most of the features, and you'll always find pros and cons on each platform.
Cool.
But we offer really personal service.
Right.
So dedicated personal service that I would almost confidently say I don't think anyone else would have our level of service delivery and like response times and making sure that the client is happy and working, and like we have issues on our platform, we always own up to them and we always make sure to fix them, and that's another thing, like just the accountability factor.
I'm going to come back to that because I noticed the other day I saw you post a YouTube video out something that had happened about accountability in a second. But just one last thing around the I suppose the actual platform itself. Do gym owners or box owners need to have a minimum something for you to work with them, or is it a simple sort of plug and play onboarding? Here we go?
No, not at all. So we work with gyms that are opening next month, up until gyms with multiple. We've got like the Body 20 franchise. They've got 50 studios, actually 60 globally, and they're on our platform. So awesome. So right from startup gym to franchise enterprise level.
That's very cool to hear. So coming back, in a bit of research for our chat today, you have quite a strong marketing background, in fact.
Yes.
You obviously did a bit of studying at Red and Yellow.
Yeah.
And then you did finish up a degree, I think, at UNISA.
Yeah.
And I was just curious to know, was that always an idea? Were you sort of grown up to think, well, let's start a business, or was it more like there is a I don't know a business that I have in mind, or something that I want to get involved in, and let's see what happens? What was that journey like?
So I'll start from school.
Yeah, sure.
So school and varsity, I found pretty brutal.
Okay.
And not brutal. Brutal's actually such a big word. Yeah. I enjoyed my school and varsity career thoroughly.
Yeah.
But I'm not an academic person. Okay. I think I've got a touch of ADD. It was worse when I was younger.
Okay.
So sitting still for a long period of time, studying, concentrating. It's not me, right? And I think that's a big problem with like society, not society, with like our current constructs.
Sure, yeah.
It's not for everyone, and the problem is that if it's not for you, and you're still stuck in it, it knocks your confidence. Yeah. So I had a great social life. I didn't do like terribly at school, but I was always like slightly above average.
Right.
But I always wanted to do better, and I didn't know, like, is this for me? Is this not for me? I feel like I can do better than this, but not like this,
Still like this format.
Yeah. And so time came to matriculate and apply for university, and I think the right thing for me to have done would probably to have taken a gap year,
okay.
which I didn't do. So my first year of varsity was my unofficial gap year.
Love it. Okay.
So I went into studying a BCom accounts.
Yeah.
And accounting is like the furthest thing from my personality.
Right.
I just did it because all of my friends were going into accounting, business science,
sure.
BCom, etc. And like during that year, I kind of tried to figure out like, cool, what do I actually want to do? Because it's not accounting.
Mm-hmm.
And I was drawn to marketing.
Right.
So I studied marketing. I was mediocre academically.
But slightly more interested?
Yeah, slightly more, definitely more interested.
Sure.
But it's just the whole nature of studying a degree, of the studying and the exams, and it didn't get me. I was much more practical, and that's why after varsity I went to Red and Yellow, and I was a completely different person.
Right.
I did really well there. I really thrived working in teams,
sure.
working on practical projects for real clients, building brand ideas, building marketing, advertising ideas. And that really sparked a passion, and it gave me confidence again, because it gave me the confidence of like, okay, cool, I think I could be good at something, because I think I'm definitely good at something. I just know what it is. I don't know what it is.
Can't quite figure that out.
Yeah. So that was awesome. Then I started working for a company after that doing media salary strategy.
Yeah.
And again, I went back into a desk job working predominantly on Excel and PowerPoint, and hated every minute.
Sure.
And again, knocked my confidence. And it made me realize, I think soon after that, I realized like, I don't think I'm necessarily the issue. I think maybe the issue is that I just don't fit in this kind of lifestyle. Like I couldn't understand like working at a company, working my ass off, and no matter what I did, I still got the same salary at the end of the day. And the next person next to me was leaving earlier and
getting the same salary.
Yeah, I also didn't understand like I have to be here at this time and I have to leave at this time, but I'm done. Why should I such it? So these are very basic concepts, and I couldn't do it.
Everyone goes through that.
Yeah, and I then started like thinking about more entrepreneurial type things, and even the companies that I worked for afterwards were entrepreneurial companies, obviously started by other people, but I thrived in that environment. And I think I got to 2014 and I had a couple ideas, and I started building them out, and I started building business plans and chatting to people. BoxChamp was one of two ideas that I was quite serious about pursuing. And the other idea was like a one-stop shop e-commerce app for groceries that you could get groceries from different stores. Like a Mr. Delivery for groceries kind of. But I decided to go with BoxChamp because I had much more passion for the environment, for the fitness industry and so on.
And to sort of dig into that a little bit more, what was that like? Were you, after hours, drawing out business plans? Were the conversations deliberate? Were you like trying to get with the founders, owners, networking events?
So it was initially with immediate like my wife's dad, Tony's dad, is a very successful entrepreneur. He exited his business a few years ago, and he's got a lot of experience in retail, for example, in retail and payments and so on. So he was a really good sounding board. And other than him, it was literally talking to Tones, talking to my folks, and then with BoxChamp, then I started talking to Chris, and he introduced me to a couple other coaches. And that's how it started. I think with the other idea, what put me off it was having to kind of get buy-in from big corporate retailers, and I kind of knew that that was not going to be an easy process, and it would probably require a hell of a lot of money to start. And I had my savings, which I spent on BoxChamp, they were modest, so I would probably have needed to get backing right from the start and stuff, which I wasn't really ready for. I had no experience with it at the time.
How did you balance that that decision between I could potentially do this, or I know that I need to go this way, versus like the reality of the matter being that I can't right now?
Yeah.
Was it like just try and be resourceful, or was it just try and gain information and bank it, and then when the time is right, just push it?
No, well, I think the process, it wasn't I can't right now. I was ready to do it.
Right.
I just had to decide which path I wanted to take.
Sure.
And the decision for me was easy to go with BoxChamp. It was easy because I had a real passion for this little problem I wanted to solve. And it's something that I decided I could start small and build up myself without having to involve too many like outside parties in the decision. It was just, I felt ready. I don't know, like I felt ready to do it. I had done my time. I kind of decided like the career I was in at the time, which was in finance, it was not the end game. So like now is a good time to do it before kids and marriage and all of that.
Yeah. And do you have I'm sure you do, could you enlighten us to the vision as to where you see it, or where is BoxChamp going?
Yeah, sure. So over the last year and a bit, we've been rebuilding the entire platform from the ground up. Obviously using certain segments of code that we already have, but refactoring everything and making sure it's streamlined. We're calling it BoxChamp 2.0, which we are launching in a couple months.
Awesome.
So this has been a project for the last year and a bit.
Right.
And I think it will really help us to level up the experience that our clients get. So the physical experience they get with the platform. It also gives us a really good marketing opportunity to kind of have another campaign and so on. The vision for it, so I want us to be one of the big players globally, same as what Waterfy and MindBody Online are doing. We've definitely got the potential to do it. And like, honestly, like when we pitch our platform to a gym or a business that is using one of those platforms, they are super impressed by it.
Right.
So it's having the distribution, having the kind of ability to get out there more and yeah.
Okay, that's awesome. And is there anything in the 2.0 that we can look forward to that we haven't yet seen?
I can't share too much just yet.
Sure.
But it will be a brand new experience.
Okay.
It will be so for you as an athlete, you would be downloading a brand new app from the App Store.
Cool.
It's using new technology. It will look like your gym's app.
Nice.
Not a different kind of third-party app. So it will have all the branding and everything of your gym that you train at, which is quite cool. But yeah, we've got some really, really cool plans that involve more social interaction with peers and I won't go too
cool. We'll stay tuned.
Cool.
Despite how sort of busy you currently are, running at whatever time you do in the mornings, and you obviously have it seems like you're working really, really hard to have that balance in life.
Yeah.
Just a couple of months ago, you decided to get involved with another business, and hence the birth of Flexi was born. Can you tell us a little bit more about what Flexi is?
Yeah, cool. So Flexi's, it seems to the outside world that it's a couple of months old, but the idea actually started, and we started working on it about 3 years ago.
Okay.
So essentially, it's my business partner Ty, myself. We got together back then 3 years ago, and actually we had a third person involved at the time, Darren, who he subsequently decided to immigrate, and he didn't carry on pursuing it with us.
Sure. Okay.
But yeah, I would actually say the idea was born between the three of us.
Yeah.
So the whole issue was that we each had a gym membership at a boutique studio. So I was at Cap CrossFit, Ty was at PFA, Darren I think did yoga, and all three of us liked to do other training other than that. So And the problem is gym memberships are not very flexible. So whether you're there or not, you're going to pay it. Whether you go every day or not, you're going to. There's no easy way to be able to go and do those extra sessions somewhere. And there's obviously a place for the gym memberships, and that's why they exist.
Yeah.
But we found like no one really disrupted that. Like, why can't I just go pay as you go?
Yeah.
Without having to like actually Google the studio itself.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a long process. We tried to get funding to build the app. In the process, we met with a major kind of insurer and rewards program in the country, which was a huge opportunity. And they loved what we had to offer. But that process took about 1.5 years, and actually didn't end up panning out. And we decided, okay, we've got to do it ourselves first, and then we can look at this. And we managed to get the funding to do it. And so what Flexi is it's an app that you download, you link your card. It's a payment system that allows you to go to any gym at any time that's on our network. You can easily geolocate on a map all the gyms that are in your area. And this is it's not only gyms, so it's anything healthy lifestyle, healthy activity. So from yoga, CrossFit, Pilates, etc., boxing, to we got Kaskazi kayaks on board. We are speaking to the bicycle rental places, Gary's Surf School.
Ooh.
Yeah. City Rock, yes,
Nice.
we're speaking to them. So it's kind of putting all of those things on one platform where if I'm from Joburg or if I'm from Cape Town, I travel to Joburg, I can easily find a place to go, pay on a pay-as-you-go basis for that session, and every time I pay for a session using the app, I get actual cash back into my Flexi wallet, and we negotiate those percentages that you get back with the business owners. And the idea is to give you as much back as possible because you can spend that money on more healthy activities.
Sure.
So that's the core of it, and that's where we've started, and we've got a lot of really cool ideas of things that we're going to roll out, but that's kind of the starting point.
Just the two of you at the time being?
Yeah.
You and Ty?
Yeah, it's just, it's Ty, myself, and we've got a third partner who's an investor.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just to tick away at in your spare time.
Yeah.
So
I'm not actually, technically, I'm not operational in Flexi.
Okay.
So Ty has another business called Thirst Bar Services, and they do bar services and coffee services for big events. So he's currently at Ultra,
cool.
setting it up there.
Nice.
But he's got a big team and a GM and everything. So he's actually managed to step away a little bit and run the day-to-day of Flexi.
See.
And the office is next door to BoxChamp, so if I'm needed, I'm right there for any decisions or
That's pretty convenient.
Yeah.
I find it remarkable how the busy people like to remain busy. Like they're always doing something, and it might be because they're A-type personality and they don't know how to really slow down, but they're also chasing stillness. Like a lot of the people we were talking about earlier, meditation, just wants to find a bit more balance in life and so forth. And I think I always find it remarkable how people are just we're driven by something that you just want a little bit more, it tastes a little bit more.
Yeah.
Have you found over the years, or in particular the last 3 years, any particular resources or mentors that have helped you navigate through your professional life, but then also help get that work-life balance? Have you, other than maybe Headspace and your constant commitment to training, have you got anything else that has helped you? A good book, a good podcast, someone you talk to?
Cool. So I'm huge on podcasts because I spend about 2 hours on the road every day.
Any that you can recommend?
1.5 hours. I listen to quite a few. I'll actually take out my phone right now and go through them because hitting a blank.
Sure.
I started off the podcast journey with Tim Ferriss's podcast,
Yeah.
and I think that's quite cliche because everyone starts on Tim Ferriss.
Classic favorites for sure.
Yeah. Listen to quite a bit of Barbell Business and Barbell Shrugged at the start.
Oh, shrugged.
There's a really cool podcast at the moment called Expansive by a friend of mine, John Sane, who started. He's an author and a speaker.
Cool.
I recently discovered Marnus Broodryk from Shark Tank.
Yeah.
He's a big entrepreneur in South Africa. He's got a podcast called Making SMEs Matter. Yeah. So he's interviewed a lot of really interesting people. Masters of Scale,
of course.
Reid Hoffman.
Yep.
Outcome.
Yeah, great.
by Maddie Schiff.
Heard of them?
Yeah. I could go on. Yeah, just to name a few.
Do you just sort of in the mornings feel like, what sort of mood am I in today?
Yeah,
And
I had a big Gary V phase.
Yeah.
But he's very repetitive, so like it gets a bit much.
You can't even much.
Yeah.
Cool. That's awesome. So podcasts for sure. Any other sort of resources, books in the evening or?
Yeah, some audiobooks that I've listened to.
Yeah. You use Audible?
I use Audible.
Nice.
But while I find you some books, mentors wise, definitely, because I found like I started this business without any experience in starting a business.
Yeah.
So like you do what you can, obviously, and you use your intuition quite a lot.
Yeah.
But everyone I think who starts a business will need some help somewhere. So funny enough, my investors in BoxChamp, Rob is a very successful businessman in his own right, and before he invested in my company, I used to speak to him on a mentorship basis. Right. And that continues, which has been really cool. Like I said, my father-in-law has been awesome. My parents have been incredible. Like my parents are not business people; they're doctors, but they run their own practice. So essentially, it is a business. But very good sounding boards, Tony, my wife. And recently, I started something called the Entrepreneurs Organization Accelerator.
Okay.
And I've done a few of these accelerators and incubators and stuff where you talk to different business people and mentors. And I find it really helps to have someone who is completely objective, that doesn't really know you or your business, but has done it themselves before.
Right.
To help you build the structures and like to help you develop the ways of thinking and all of that.
Yeah, I find that over the last, say, 6 months or so since the podcast has been live, the most obvious but also the most enlightening sort of experience that I've sort of gone through is how courteous and how generous people are with their time.
Yeah.
More so than not. I think it's not that anyone will sit and just have a conversation necessarily, although many people are open to doing so. But if you can show in whatever venture you're sort of pursuing that there is value to add, and obviously you're tapping into people that are in a similar industry or mindset, I find that people are more than willing to share information.
Yeah.
You know,
people want to help.
They want to help, exactly. And if you can make their time worthwhile, like I'm gonna have a conversation with you, and I would love for you to share the episode along all your channels, not because it creates exposure, but just so that it shares the message of yourself as Mark, and then BoxChamp as the business, and Flexi and so forth. But it's like there is that element of how just simply asking and being vulnerable and exposing yourself up to that sort of feedback.
And I think like if you've ever been through it, you know how hard it is to build a business, and that makes you want to help other people.
Yeah.
You know?
Sure, exactly.
I mean, I'm sure there are people who are selfish with their time and don't want to do that, but I think that would be the minority.
Yeah, and I think it's also just building momentum in that, right? So it's like try and see the bigger picture and realizing that not every single person has got something to offer, and that's okay to say no or to not necessarily take anything from it, but then to slowly just like let the flywheel gain some traction, and eventually something happens, or you get an introduction to someone, or you read something. And then it sparks the next idea. And
and a lot of the time, I listen on a lot of podcasts, and a lot of a trend and a question that has been asked is, can you mention big turning points and big successes? And like obviously there are certain moments that are bigger than others, but I think it's a series of little small wins and chipping away and so on that actually builds the business. And like I've been asked the question before, and I'm like, I can't actually pinpoint one massive turning point. It's just been every day, like small little wins every day, and it like slowly builds into something bigger. Same with failures. It's like I'm sure I have had a few failures, but nothing massive to put my finger on. It's been little failures and little learnings on a daily basis. That build that,
As we've come to know each other over the last couple of years, and again in the preparation for this chat, I've noticed that you're not only a great speaker, but and have a few YouTube videos out that are online and that'll be there forever. Mark Fawzy, check him out on YouTube. I've noticed one or two there, but you've really invested a lot into relationships and with people, and it's very apparent in our conversation now. The golden thread throughout pretty much your like entire professional career, with family as well. It's checking in with yourself. It's maintaining a healthy, good, decent relationship. When you're looking to get BoxChamp up, you did all the legwork. Like checking out the demand. Why is that? Is it just been a part of you, or is it something that you've been deliberate in pursuing?
I think I've always been a people lover and a people pleaser, and I enjoy interacting with people. I think definitely inherently, but a company is made of people, and so this is something that I've always felt it and known it, but I've kind of managed to articulate it of late. Is that when you look at your company culture, it's not the company culture, it's the people culture, because it's made of people. So my company culture cannot be misaligned with my personal beliefs and values. So when we went through a process of doing a whole, like, what are our core values? Why are we doing this? What are we trying to achieve? And when we started off doing it as a team, I was like, cool, what are your personal values and what are your company values? And as I said that, I realized like that's actually redundant, because it's the same thing. So if one of my values is integrity, inherently my company values will be integrity.
Sure.
And if there's anyone on the team who doesn't agree with that value, they probably shouldn't be on the team. So it's all got to do with people, and like two companies dealing together with each other, it's different groups of people working with each other. So if you can make the people aspect work, I think the rest follows. So I put a lot of emphasis on that. Like with regards to culture, for example, it's something that it's taken me a long time to learn how to manage a team, or learn how to work with a team that works for me, or for the company, you know.
And has there been any particular resource that you've used in that, or is it this mentorship that you were talking about?
So a bit of both. So a little bit of the mentorship, but I have been through some hard times with people as well, where values are not aligned, or etc., where it didn't end up working out, and I found those times very stressful and emotional and difficult to deal with. And it's only once I started really articulating and coming to understand certain principles and concepts that now I find those things a bit easier. And it's, for example, when I started hiring people, because I'm like a first-time boss, right? So I don't like using the word boss, but for lack of a better word, so first-time leader. You always think like, oh, we have to have these working hours, and because this is how companies work, right? But I don't like working hours myself. Like I wake up at 4 a.m. and I clock off at 3. You know, so I've come to realize that that's okay, and actually that's a beautiful culture to have, as long as the structures are in place to manage that culture. Like, so flexibility is a big thing for me, and in the culture that I'm trying to instill in the company, and not one size fits all. So just realizing not one size fits all. Some people tick, different things make them tick, and trying to figure out what that is for each person.
Is there any particular process that you follow to do that though? Is there a sort of Monday morning stand-up before the week within the business? Is there like a monthly reflection?
So we never used to do it, and it used to be we'll meet as and when we need to meet. And then as the team grew a little bit, we did like monthly meeting, then weekly meeting, and through the EO accelerator process, as well as just chatting to people. And I read a book called Mastering the Rockefeller Methods. So I really highly recommend that book for anyone who owns a business with people in it.
Mastering the Rockefeller
Methods. And it's Vern Harnish.
Perfect. I'll put that in the show notes as well.
His update to that is called Scaling Up. So in fact, read Scaling Up, and it's got actual worksheets and assignments that you do in the book. It's like a textbook almost. But they have an organization called Gazelles, and they do almost managing consulting to some of the biggest organizations in the world and helping them to scale up and so on. So it's very interesting. But daily stand-up. So we do a daily stand-up every day. So our process is Monday to Thursday. we do a daily stand-up, which is, it used to be physical, but with team members all around the world and sometimes not in the office, we made it digital. So it's integrated with our Slack.
Cool.
So Slack is our internal communication tool, integrated with an app called Stand Up Alice.
Okay.
So every morning at 7:30 a.m., everyone in the company, including me, we get a ping on Slack, say time for your DSU, daily stand-up. So click start, and I list 3 things. What are my wins from yesterday? What are my priorities for today? And anything that I'm stuck with. And then at 9 a.m., I get a ping, and I can see, everyone in the company can see everyone's DSU. Right. And that's so powerful, because I don't have to go to the office. I don't need to make a phone call. I could be on holiday, and I can see exactly what everyone's up to. Right. First of all, and secondly, everyone else can see what everyone's up to, and you have to find wins from yesterday, which is very powerful, which means that you need to create wins today. And what are my priorities for the day? You decide on that before the day starts, so that you've got purpose to the day. So that's been game changer. I know a couple of our staff members find it annoying, but they all understand why we do it, and it allows us to be flexible. Right. It means that, you know what, if you have a meeting in Somerset West today, I know that you've got that meeting, and I don't need to hammer you on a phone call and find out where you are.
Of course.
So stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then every Friday we've got our weekly meeting, which is a longer in-person, or like Leslie's in Austria, so we get her in on Skype and she joins our meeting, and we have a longer chat and speak more fleshy
stuff on the week and see what's coming up in the next week. Yeah, it's there's a book that comes to mind. I can't remember the guy's first name, but it's called The Culture Code, Daniel Coyle.
Okay.
Really, really good. It was recommended by Mark Cooks, actually, to me about a year ago. I couldn't put it down. It was fantastic. And it's just, I think it's the power within it for me. I wouldn't be able to tell you a couple of the tricks or the examples or case studies that were mentioned just off the top of my head now, but within it was things about understanding people, working with different type personalities, and also just testing the waters around, like you mentioned the example before now, sitting in one-on-ones and just trying to see what your internal staff enjoyed about the business, what would they do differently, what would their family, what would they be proud to tell their family. I think those are the questions that you asked.
100%.
And just like the simple addition of the coffee machine and the water cooler,
it's
such an internal difference to the environment that is
100%.
That is there. I think it can't go by unwavered, or unthought of, and ultimately it just builds a better working environment for those.
Yes, 100%. 100%. And I find, like, when you treat everyone in the company as a not one size fits all, it creates this loyalty and motivation in that person. Because our business is not easy. Like, there's hard times and difficult client situations and so on, and if you just feel like a number, or you're not taken care of, I think it's very easy to lose good people. And makes us like we see each other on a daily basis all the time. We're in each other's faces all day, so it's good to make sure that we're all kind of connected and we all see eye to eye.
Of course. Mark, this has been super insightful. I've thoroughly enjoyed having to dig in a bit more about yourself, as well as BoxChamp and Flexi, and find out a bit more of your journey. There's one or two more questions I have just wanted to ask you, and they touch on briefly what we mentioned earlier. So it's not quite what's your favorite failure or favorite success type questions.
Cool.
But over the years, you've worked with elite athletes. Fowlers, whom we spoke about earlier, Jason Smith, Celeste Engelbrecht, who are very much in the CrossFit space. And I'm just curious to know, do you sense anything in them or in those type of athletes that you sort of gain a source of inspiration from? Do you see something that you're attracted to personally or as a business with them?
100%.
That you look to apply? And if so, like, what is it? What is it that you...
so there's definitely a few things. Like, I think self-belief. So it's believing that they can achieve what they set out to do. Is huge. and you can often see it with athletes, not about the names that you mentioned, I mean just in general. Like as soon as someone's confidence is knocked, their performance declines. So it's that self-belief and making sure they kind of keep that. And it's consistency. So it's obviously hard work. Everyone, most people work hard, but it's that consistency. So if you think of Jason, I'm sure you know his story, but he's got a family, he's got another business, currently he's got like 3 gyms that he runs. But he wakes up at 3 a.m. to train every single day. Like,
that's what he does.
It's crazy. 3 a.m. and he's in the gym, and it's not like a run on the promenade. It's like proper training. So it's that consistency every single day, and I think it comes down to doing it even if you don't feel like doing it, because you believe in the bigger picture.
Sure.
So that's, like, I shared on one of my videos the other day, Tony Robbins, when he does his morning plunges in the ice baths, he said like he never ever feels like doing it. It's a very, very mentally, but he decides that he's going to do it, so he just does it. He doesn't think about it, doesn't give himself a chance to negotiate with himself. It's like sometimes if I go for a run, say I do a 10K run, I spend the last 5Ks negotiating with myself just to carry on.
Sure.
If you allow that to get the better of you, you end up not doing it.
I'm glad you brought up the Instagram TV or the Tony Robbins sort of share that you did. So the last question I wanted to ask you was, how best can people stay in tune with your journey and what you're up to now?
Awesome. So I think my main kind of platform is Instagram. I'm quite a visual person, so Instagram suits me quite well. And Facebook as well. It's Mark_Fawzy_Cape Town, CT. I'm still really, that's also something that's very organic, and I'm just taking it as it comes.
Sure.
I tried initially with the videos, I wanted to share like my stories and my thoughts and all of that. And I tried to keep it very structured, as in once a week, it must be less than this minutes. And I kind of started putting together a bit of a, for lack of a better word, content plan. And then like of late, I've kind of realized like, I don't want to make this work. I want it to be something that I do naturally and organically. So if I'm driving one day and I have a thought, I'm going to remember it and share it. I try not to do it while I'm driving.
I've seen 1 or 2 videos that you have.
So it's just an insight into life, into my life.
And it's that consistency, right? It's although it's organic and it's when it might be there, it's just staying at it and learning.
Exactly.
Which ultimately, again, why I love these sort of conversations, because I'm trying to understand how one takes experiential learning, doing the things that they do, just to get a feel for it. And ultimately turn it into a sense of mastery. Now I feel confident that I can share and add value to someone who's looking to gain something.
100%.
And it starts very much the way.
Like I love public speaking. So I would love to start doing some form of public speaking, but I thought this would be a good way to start.
Why not?
Why
not? And I'm looking forward to the podcast and now. Hopefully sometime soon.
I'm looking forward to it too. I'm going to ask you for some tips just now.
As soon as I get that link, I'll share it around on my platforms too. So stay tuned for Mark Fawzy. You'll hear him. Mark, thank you so much for taking the time.
It was so enjoyable. I really enjoyed being here, and thank you for your hospitality.
Thank you, buddy.
Thanks, bud.
Hey guys, Matt here again. Just before you run off, thank you for lending me your ears and tuning in once again. I hope that you enjoyed the conversation, and of course I would love to hear any sort of feedback you might have. You can do so through all forms of social media, really. I've probably spammed enough about that, or through my email, which is outcomepodcast@gmail.com. I would love to hear from you and even to say hello. For those that have any advice on long distance recording, please feel free to share and send through a few links as well. I am an open book and am willing to learn. As usual, if you have any other news, please pass it through. And if you haven't yet subscribed or shared the podcast via the very many links that you could potentially find it on, I encourage you to do so too. Looking forward to hearing from you, and until then, cheers.